All right, we're here, baby. We are live. Week 1 of the NFL season. Finally, we've been doing this countdown. How many more Sundays? How many more weeks? Today, baby, just a few hours shy of kickoff between the New York Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then, of course, we've got the Giants out in Washington. So a couple of things we're going to get to today. We'll obviously also go through the rest of the NFL slate because there are some, tremendous matchups on the docket. But getting this thing started, we are here with you. Want to hear from you in the chat, so hit me up. I am on YouTube right now, and I just want to check to make sure that Instagram is popping off, that X is popping off. Hit me up, Ty D Butler. That's where you can find me. All over the social media platforms. I am live right now on YouTube, but I want to make sure we got X ringing off as well. OBS has been giving me some issues when it comes to streaming on both platforms, but we'll get that figured out. We will absolutely get that figured out. So let's see. Want to send the link. Want to send people the link just to make sure they're in the building. I'm excited, man. So I've never actually done this before. I've never done my own streaming. So excited to march on this endeavor. And again, at some point we'll be active on both YouTube and X. But if you want to hit me up on X, I'm at Ty D Butler. So let's get it popping. Let's get it started. We're in the building today. All right, so I was on the radio yesterday, and in my preview of both of these games, we'll start with the Jets and the Steelers because that's my team. You guys see me wearing the logo right here. That's my team. And unfortunately, I don't come into this game with a ton of optimism just because, and I've said this for the last week and a half, that the closer we got to the season, the less I was inclined to have confidence in Justin Fields. And that's with all due respect to Justin. I think that he is very talented. Obviously, he does have the skill set to become a really good quarterback. It's just hard for me to imagine that given everything around him, all of the circumstances, it's going to come to fruition the way that my heart hopes it does. So the Jets don't have a clear number 2 receiver. Love Garrett Wilson. And in some instances, he's good enough to win games by himself. But the Jets not having a number 2 receiver, I get Mason Taylor is going to be a high target as the tight end. But not having a clear number 2 receiver, the AVT injury is just so brutal, man. Like, we were excited about this offensive line being the best in 15 years? And you lose him again, his 3rd season-ending injury, and now you are tasked with trying to patchwork this offensive line that for years opposing defenses have been able to feast on. So maybe they'll find some success in doing that with Tittman and Myers sliding over. But you have that today that I'm concerned about, not having a number 2 receiver. And also, it's the weather outside. So they're going to ground and pound and try to run the football. My problem is Mike Tomlin, who's one of the 5 best coaches in football, understands that's what the Jets want to do. He gets it. He knows what their identity is. We have been broadcasting this for months. So I would imagine one of the best coaches in football, it's like, all right, I know what you guys want to do. I'm going to, best I can, stop that from happening. So do I trust that an excellent, prepared Mike Tomlin, with all these weeks of preparation, can force the Jets to do something that they're going to be uncomfortable with? Yes, I trust Mike Tomlin. Do I think that Aaron Glenn, who's making his head coaching debut today, is going to be able to outcoach Mike Tomlin? No, I don't. Do I think Justin Fields with all of the promise that he has, does come with some limitations. And that is, don't actually trust him throwing the football. And you know who agrees with me? His own head coach. Because the Jets have decided their identity is going to be ground and pound. We're going to try to have him throw the ball in as few opportunities as possible. So that sets them up to be a very predictable offensive team. And I don't think that's going to work today. So hit me up, Ty D. Butler. I'm trying to get this thing popping on X as well, so that we can be prosperous in multiple outlets. But we'll see if I'm able to do that, sending it out to X. But here's the thing, man. I don't trust the Jets are going to score enough points. And I think that they are in for a long day. A long day. Offensively. Now, Aaron Rodgers, Rich Cimini pointed this out. Week ones have not been kind to him. Week ones have not been kind to Aaron Rodgers. In week one games, and this is, again, give credit to Rich Cimini for pointing this out. Week one games since 2021. He's got a total QBR of 20.2. The great Aaron Rodgers, 4-time league MVP. 20.2. It's the lowest among 22 quarterbacks with at least 3 season opening starts in that span. He's got 1 touchdown pass and 4 interceptions. If I'm not mistaken, isn't the 1 touchdown pass last year to Alan Lazard against the Niners Monday Night Football? I mean, what a debacle that was. But one of the highlights for the Jets was the Aaron Rodgers doing his Aaron Rodgers thing, getting the defense to jump off sides, and he threw a bomb to Alan Lazard. So I think that that's the 1 touchdown pass Rodgers has in week ones since 2021. Now, it's worth pointing out. How did the rest of that 2021 season go for Aaron? I think it went pretty well, right? So in this weather, now 2 years removed from an Achilles injury, is the expectation for Steelers fans that you are going to get improved quarterback play. Improved from what you had last year with Russ and Justin. Maybe. But you can call this the pessimist. I'm very realistic. You won't see me waving pom-poms. I'm never going to get too high on my teams where it doesn't make sense, or too low and I'm kicking them in the ground. I always use the tangible evidence, what my eyes are telling me, and I try to be fair. I'm not going to be waving pom-poms, cheerleading. I'm going to give it to you 100% accurate as far as my assessment goes. And I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to be candid about what it is that I'm watching. So my prediction, and I did this on television Friday night, SNY, make sure you guys tune into Sports Night. I said the Steelers would win this game 24-13. So that means the Jets score 1 lone touchdown today, kick a couple of field goals. Meanwhile, the Steelers will have more success offensively, 24-13. So that's how I have this game going for the Jets, and they get out to an 0-1 start. Here's another thing, low-key, what you got to root for tonight if you're a Jet fan. Tonight, the Sunday night game, what a beauty this one is. Buffalo hosting Baltimore. I can't figure out why the Ravens are favored. And I love Lamar. You know, you got a little secondary team when you are a Jet fan. Secondary team, I root for the Ravens unless they're playing the Jets. I'm a big Lamar Jackson fan. Thought he should have been the MVP last year. I thought that the criticism of his performance after that loss against the Bills was a tad bit harsh, considering there were a ton of mistakes made in that game. With all of that said, as much as I love Lamar, how are the Ravens favored in this game? Something doesn't make sense to me. Because I'm thinking about taking Buffalo. We do a little gambling portion here. I want to take Buffalo plus 1.5. How are the Bills with one of the best offensive lines in football, one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the sport. They were in the AFC Championship game last year and came this close to beating Kansas City. Guess they're a little bit banged up on that defense, but how are the Buffalo Bills home dog? Anytime you see a contender as a home dog, something's up. So I am considering taking Josh Allen and the Bills tonight, at least with the spread, at least with the +1.5. But anyway, I digress. Why I got there to talking about Buffalo and Baltimore is because if you're a Jets fan, this is how my brain works. You're a Jets fan. In an odd way, you have to be rooting for the Bills tonight. It's weird. It's convoluted, but I'll explain it to you. You have to root for the Bills tonight because on no planet is Buffalo starting the season 0-2. If the Bills lose this game tonight, the Jets are going to get hammered next week. Absolutely hammered. And if you're a Jet fan like myself, you come into the season thinking, oh, we always play the Bills pretty tough in at least one of the games. Now, the second of those 2 games, you get blown out. But in one of those games, you play them tough. On what planet is Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills starting 0-2? Which is why I'm saying you got to root for Buffalo. Because if they win tonight, then you give yourself a chance to win next week. Maybe Buffalo doesn't take you as seriously as they should. I'll pull up the Bills' schedule real quick. So here's Buffalo's schedule. They've got the Ravens, the Jets, and the Dolphins, Saints. That could easily Patriots, and I think the Patriots will be good, but that could easily be 4-0, 5-0. But they lose this game tonight, they are gonna come out. And I know this become a cliche. They're gonna come out hungry in game 2, and that could get ugly. So I've got the Jets losing this game today. They will, though, have a chance to win next week, assuming Buffalo gets it done tonight. All right, let's move on to the New York Football Giants. Let's talk some Giants. Buckle up for this one. For those of you who have been paying attention to me on the radio the last 6 weeks, on television Friday night when I made this official pick, and I was on TV with JJ. For those of you who have been paying attention to my social media platform, that is Ty D. Butler on X and on Instagram, I have told y'all the Giants are beating the Commanders in week 1. Now, I was a little bit more confident when it looked like Terry McLaurin, because of that contract dispute, might not be factored into the week 1 equation. He gets his deal, and now it's all systems go. But I still feel confident that the New York Football Giants, who it feels like it's becoming a trendy, look out for them just to be better than expected pick, I feel confident that the Giants will go to Washington this afternoon and upset the Commanders. The context of that is this. Do I think the Giants are going to exceed expectations this year? No, I don't. I think they're about a 5 or 6 win team. But one of those 5 or 6 wins will come this afternoon against a Washington franchise that historically they have played well against. And, it's week 1. It's upsets galore. We don't really know what these teams are going to actually be because we're devoid of evidence as to what they are. Not a ton of action during the preseason. Week 1 is upsets galore. Teams are just figuring out each other. And if it's ugly late, can that Giant defense make one play to win the game? Yes, that defense can. If it's close late, Russell Wilson, who I thought was just trash at the end of the season last year, he was cooked for Pittsburgh. Do I think in week 1, which is where he'll be the freshest he will be all season long, can he make one throw to win the game for the Giants? Yes, I think that can happen. So it brings us, if we can rewind for a moment, back to last year where the Giants, yes, they got swept by Washington, came this close to winning both of those games. Now, the counter to that is, listen, bad teams find ways to lose. So it's not always about point differential. It's about when the moment arises, when your best is required, can you make a play or multiple plays to win a game? And the bad teams aren't able to do that. So you can explain that away. But it's not just the 2 games last year. It's history, and Washington primed for a little bit of a, I don't know, taking a step back this year. We've seen that happen. We've seen sophomore regression before. My man CJ Stroud, yes, they won a playoff game again. So on paper, it's like, oh, you just stayed the course. CJ Stroud was not as good as he was in his rookie season. The league starts to get tape on you. The league starts to notice trends. They make adjustments to those trends. Now, I think Jaden Daniels is going to be magnificent. It's hard not to think that based on what you saw last year. But it's not all that crazy. It's not all that disrespectful to say, you know what? A guy who quite literally had the best rookie season in NFL history could take a touch of a step back. It's not all that bizarre to say the team that lost in the NFC Championship game last year, maybe they lose in the divisional round. Do I have them falling off of a cliff? Absolutely not. But I think Washington is prime for an upset today. We saw it last year. How could the Bengals lose to the Patriots? Upsets in week 1 happen all the time. I think the upset happens down in Washington. So I've got the Giants. I'm excited to see that defensive line. We've been talking about it for months now. Abdul Carter unleashed. Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon, who's been doing a lot of chirping, improved their secondary. Javon Holland's out there. And Javon Holland, man, the reason why I remember Javon Holland, because as a Jet fan, he had the Fail Mary. Remember Black Friday? Where the Jet, and I'm sitting there with family. I'm sorry, quick detour. It's just, it's one of those PTSD moments. I'm sitting there with family, watching the Jets play the Dolphins. And, I mean, we're excited. Gathered around, eating some leftovers. I remember I had just come from the gym. And I'm like, all right, let's get it. Then your man Tim Boyle throws at the end of the first half, throws a ball up in the air, corralled by Javon Holland. And then the immediate reaction was, oh, okay, that stinks. We're not going to get any points. But then you're watching Javon Holland go. And you're like, wait. He's losing men to beat. And then all of a sudden, there's no men to beat. and it's the Fail Mary, one of the most horrifying Jet lowlights in franchise history. But anyway, the Giant defense should be fun to watch. Them get after the quarterback all year long. And if they're going to be as good as advertised, it means it will be different from what we saw last year. Last year, they were an embarrassment. And once the losses start to pile up, players won't admit this, but you start to tune out the coach. You're no longer playing for the team. It's all about your next contract, or you're auditioning for your next squad. All of that messaging goes out the window. The Giants will not be unwatchable this year. They're not going to be very good, but they won't be unwatchable because their defense is going to be spectacular, and there are players you're watching for. Andrew Thomas, he's listed as doubtful. I'm waiting for the official injury report to come out, but it doesn't sound like he's going to play. Doesn't sound like Andrew Thomas is going to play in this game today. He's listed as doubtful. But at some point this year, when he's able to get healthy, that's a guy you're watching. Don't underrate the significance of nailing your franchise left tackle, especially when you've got a young quarterback. You're hoping Andrew Thomas turns out to be that franchise left tackle, but there is some reservation there because he's played 16 games in his last 2 seasons. Dude's always hurt. But you're watching for him this year. You're watching for, as I mentioned, Abdul Carter. And then, of course, you're watching for a guy who it looks like could see a few snaps in this game. Are there some packages designed for Jackson Dart? Maybe. Who's now number 2 on the depth chart. Hold up. Number 2 on the depth chart means he's a play away. If Russell Wilson gets a little dinged up, in comes Jackson Dart. And I give the NFL credit for this, though sometimes I know as fans it annoys us, but they performed their due diligence, and now they are being proactive instead of reactive when it comes to these head injuries. All it takes is one hit or one helmet goes to the ground for your quarterback to end up in the tent. For a couple plays, a series, we're going to run some testing. And obviously, I'm not wishing that on Russell Wilson. All I'm saying is there's a possibility that happens. And if it does, in comes Jackson Dart. And the Giant fans, because of what we saw during the preseason, now have an early appetite for Jackson Dart. They have an early appetite for him. So, those are the 3 players, amongst many others, but those are young guys who have shown promise, whether it be in regular season games or throughout the preseason. And the preseason will be Carter and Dart. That even if this season goes off the rails, they're not unwatchable. You're not going to quit them because you're waiting to see these 3 young cats. So I've got the Giants winning today, and I've got the Steelers winning. So Giants, I'm going to go 23-20. Steelers, I'll go 24-13. So let's now go around the league, and this is one of the beauties. This is the type of show the type of show where I get to go around the league. And the reason why you see me pause here is because I want to just make sure I'm getting you guys the information. Schefter, Schefter and Rappaport are gonna give you some stuff going on today. So Ian Rappaport, and we're gonna go around the NFL here. That's the beauty of doing a YouTube show. Usually when I'm doing the local radio show, which I love, where we keep it more to the Jets and just Jets and Giants, but I get to go around the NFL, which is something I'm going to have some fun with here. All right, so Ian Rappaport says that wide receiver Xavier Worthy suffered a dislocated shoulder in Brazil, still undergoing tests, but the hope is he can return with a brace. Meanwhile, Christian McCaffrey, big part of the walkthrough on Saturday, a sign he's trending to go, which, by the way, one of my spreads I love, and I'll give you some picks later on in the show. We're going to figure this thing out. We're going to have some graphics, bells and whistles. So this is the first installment of our Sunday show that we're going to try to get popping, but there's a lot that we want to add. All right. And we'll get to picks. Niners -1.5 in Seattle. That's a game I love. I'm all over. So we'll get to that. That Worthy injury, dislocated shoulder, brutal. And if you're a Chiefs fan, listen, you're not going to panic after week 1, but you've got the Eagles coming up next Sunday, and the Eagles are favored in Kansas City. I would assume that over the course of this week, that line is going to change. But if the Eagles team that showed up in the first half against Dallas shows up for 4 quarters against the Chiefs, Eagles will go to 2-0, and Kansas City just surprisingly will go, and very shockingly will go to 0-2. But we'll have our chance to talk about that. I'm watching Chargers Chiefs Friday night. And here was my takeaway. My takeaway was, coming off of a mortifying playoff loss, that the way that the Chargers had last year, you could not have scripted a better start to this season for Justin Herbert. You could not have scripted a better start to this season for Justin Herbert. I know it's week 1, but that kind of felt like a must-win, if you want to take us seriously as contenders, game for the Chargers. Because if the Chargers are trying to make a statement fresh off of an embarrassing loss the way that they had in the playoffs, the way you do that is to come out week 1 and win that game against the Chiefs the way that they did, where they were able to, and not many teams are able to do this, survive that mental mistake that doesn't cost you. Toward the end of the first half, you had the Chargers running back, should have stayed in bounds, goes out of bounds, poor clock management. Now the Chiefs get the ball back. They immediately capitalize and get the 3 points back that they just surrendered. So, if you want to take the Chargers seriously, that was the only way you were going to have it happen, and that is by, of course, winning that game the way that they did. It comes down to the wire. Justin Herbert on 3rd and long, making a play with his legs to win it, ice it. They were up by 6 at that point. If Kansas City gets the ball back, Mahomes is going to march down the field and score the game-winning touchdown. And that was going to be such a Chargers just devastating, heartbreaking loss. But that could be a sign things are different this year. So shout out to the Chargers. Shout out to the Chargers for doing that. I talked about Eagles, Cowboys feels like, in the rearview mirror. I talked about, if you're a Dallas fan, quickly on this. My biggest takeaway from this game was, if you're a Dallas fan, the Micah trade has to infuriate you more watching that performance, because the Cowboys, you could argue, very well could have and should have won that game. A couple of drops and some misfires did them in. But it's clear that they're in their championship window. Anytime Dak is healthy, they're a double-digit win team. And now they're not to be taken seriously. They're going to be relevant. They're going to make the playoffs. But you can't take them seriously as a contender because they traded their best player away. And who's going to get better? What team gets better after trading away their best player? Buccaneers, Falcons. I'm expecting a shootout. That's one of the games I have highlighted. It's going to be fun. Michael Penix Jr. unleashed. Baker Mayfield. Shout out to Todd Bowles, man, former Jet head coach, getting an extension this past offseason. That's a really fun back and forth. The over-under's at 47.5. Bucks favored by 1.5. I've got Tampa Bay winning that division, but it's going to come down to these two teams. Bucks, Falcons. I expect that to be a shootout. One of those, witching hour games where you are locked in late. 3 minutes to go. Any one of these teams have a chance to either tie or take the lead on a final drive. I'm looking forward to that game. Bengals, Browns. I mean, this is simple. If you're Cincinnati, what's been the harshest criticism about you last couple years? Getting off to these 0-2 starts where you now got to win 7 of 8 just to get into the playoffs as a wild card. That's embarrassing. And you play in the toughest division in football, or arguably the toughest division. Guess you can say AFC West, NFC North, but one of the 3 toughest divisions in football you play in. So getting into an early hole, it's just going to be tough for you to overcome that, especially when you're playing a joke like the Browns. You're playing the Cleveland Browns. I mean, it's a joke. So go out there, win this game, take care of business against 53-year-old Joe Flacco, where the Bengals are favored by 5.5. They scared a lot of people off from taking them in a survivor pool pick, which I understand. But Cincinnati, no excuses. How many teams with quarterbacks who are that good in their prime missed the playoffs 3 consecutive years? They lose this game today. There's no such thing as it being too early to discuss whether a coach should be on the hot seat. If Cincinnati loses this game in Cleveland today, Zach Taylor immediately on the hot seat. Let's take a look at the Bengals' upcoming schedule. You got Jacksonville next week. Should be better. New head coach Liam Cohen. And then on the road at Minnesota. Then on the road at Denver. Then home for Detroit. At Green Bay. Home for Pittsburgh. First 7 games. This is easily the most winnable. Easily the most winnable game of the first 7. At Cleveland. Home for Jacksonville. At Minnesota. At Denver. Home for Detroit. At Green Bay, home for Pittsburgh. No excuses. Go win this game today. And I love Joe Burrow. That's my guy. And last year, for all the fools arguing it was his fault, he didn't do enough, come on, stop it. Doing it for clicks. Go win this game today. Dolphins, Colts, I'm thinking about dabbling on this one. So the New York sports fan in me is just so fascinated by Daniel Jones. Here is the worst case scenario for the Giant regime. You get blasted in Washington, which I don't think is going to happen. I think the Giants will win. But I'm laying out the worst case scenario. You get blasted in Washington, and then Daniel Jones has a 3-touchdown performance and a win at home over Miami. That would be bad. I think the Dolphins win this game because there's been too much of an overcorrection on how we view the Dolphins. It went from... My man Chris Broussard calls them break dancers. They can't play in cold weather. They don't want to hit. Went from just that, they can't beat good teams. They can't play in cold weather, to they're going to be awful. I don't think they're an awful football team. They will be in the hunt for a playoff spot if Tua stays healthy. I like the Dolphins to win this game today. I said this on radio yesterday, and one of my producers had some pushback. I said one of the best games in the 1 o'clock window, Raiders-Patriots. Much improved Raiders team. Much improved Raiders team. Because you now have Geno Smith, who's carving out a nice career for himself. Pete Carroll, who is one of the best coaches, comes back to one of the best coaches in football. And now you've got 2 explosive, exciting offensive weapons in Gentry and in Brock Bowers. So that has the potential to be a really good offense for a head coach who's defensive minded. I think the Raiders are a sneaky, in the hunt playoff team. And then the Patriots are going to be much better. Had a lot of money, went out there and spent it to improve this team. Drake May, year 2. Mike Vrabel, who I desperately wanted to be the Jet head coach, he's there to give them some stability. He's got the cachet and the credentials to get them back to, being not the dynastic New England Patriots, but a team that should be respected. So that should be a fun game. I'm not touching that. It's New England minus 2.5. That feels like a field goal game that can go either way, but the Raiders could very well go into Gillette Stadium and win that game. Cardinals Saints. Arizona's spread, point spread down to 5.5. I love that it's coming down. Here's the thing: we know the Saints are going to be bad. We think the Saints are the worst team in the NFL. Wouldn't it be worst team in the NFL thing to do? Win week 1, and then be a disaster the rest of the year. But you pull off the week 1 upset. People are like, oh, maybe they're not going to be that bad. Maybe they're not going to be as awful as we could have imagined. And then they win one more game the rest of the year. So that's what scares me about this one. But I do like Arizona to win this game, obviously. It's just a matter of 5.5, or now it's going back up to 6.5. That's the spread. Steelers, Jets, we talked about. I think Pittsburgh's the better team. They are the team with the better coach, and they will go into MetLife Stadium. And wouldn't it be same old Jets for Rodgers to throw a touchdown parade on that Jet defense? I'm low-key nervous that this Sauce Gardner is now turned into a fibula injury. It was a calf. I've got my eyes on him, man. The Jets usually suffer a devastating injury. Had it so far with AVT. Sauce Gardner, who just got paid and is looking to have a bounce-back season. I'm a little concerned about his leg situation. I don't want to put anything into the atmosphere. Giants, Commanders, I'm not touching that game spread-wise because I do think Pittsburgh's going to win, but I would never bet against my team. That's foolish. I will take the Giants plus 6.5 in Washington against the Commanders. I told you I think they're going to win the game outright, but I love the plus 6.5. Panthers, Jags. Here's a chance for, it's a do or... It's not, I was going to say it's a do or die season for Jacksonville, but Trevor Lawrence, they just paid him. But they've got the new head coach and Liam Cohn. You've also got Travis Hunter, who there was so the report on Travis Hunter today was that he's going to play, by the way, Kyler Murray added to the injury report with an illness, so that's why that spread might be moving. I might stay away from that game. There was a report out today on Travis Hunter. Okay, expected to play more wide receiver than cornerback. Doesn't mean that the arrangement will hold in week 2 or further into the season. The Jags plan to mix it up with Hunter's usage throughout the course of the season. But there was something I saw that he's going to play every offensive snap. He's going to play every offensive snap. And then be sprinkled in on defense. So that's where a lot of the intrigue revolves around in this game with the Jags and the Panthers. I guess, Bryce Young took a leap forward in the last month of the season last year. So we see if that continues or if Carolina is going to be in the market for a quarterback this upcoming draft. But for Jacksonville, generational talent, we said about Trevor Lawrence. Hasn't looked like it the last couple years. And I know he's dealt with injuries, but this season, there's a lot of pressure on him to deliver. He's got the big contract now. A lot of pressure on him to deliver this upcoming season. All right. Titans, Broncos. Cam Ward makes his first start. Denver, I saw Sean Payton in Diana Rossini's article. He's in love with Bo Nix. I don't know that you can be in love with Bo Nix. He's the coach of the team, so I guess he has to say that. But Saw some people picking Denver to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I don't see that. They're big favorites at home against the Titans. They should take care of business. It's a rookie quarterback on the road. Tough spot for him to be in. So I might dabble in that Broncos -8.5. I told you guys earlier, Niners on the road against the Seahawks. I just think there was everything that could go wrong went wrong for San Francisco last year. I like them giving a 1.5 on the road. I'm going to take them in this game. Niners, I expect them to be a double-digit team back into contention. I don't love their wide receiver room, but this is where Brock Purdy, who just got paid, shows his value, right? Lions-Packers might be the sexiest game of the day, and if it's not Lions-Packers, it's a game we'll get to in a moment here. Micah Parsons expected to make his debut for the Green Bay Packers. It's going to be really weird to see that the last time Micah Parsons was in a playoff game, him and his defense looked awful against this Green Bay Packers team, and now he's wearing that uniform. So Green Bay at home against the Lions. Packers favored by a 1.5. I'm not touching it. I do like the over in this one, but should be a sensational game. Lions now in the season lost both their coordinators. Ben Johnson goes to Chicago. You've got Aaron Glenn going to the Jets. So interesting to see how that affects this team. It should affect them. I mean, if we're raving about Ben Johnson and we're raving about Aaron Glenn, it should affect the team that loses those guys, right? So Lions on the road, taking on Green Bay today. Texans, Rams, Max Stafford's back issue. I don't know that I can trust that you get older and healthier. It just doesn't happen. Back issue doesn't sound like it's going away. Texans looking to get back to the team that they were 2 years ago. Last year struggled a lot, dealt with a ton of injuries. Their defense, their offensive line did not produce it the way they had a couple years ago. So that should be a fun game. Devontae Adams makes his debut for the Rams, so looking forward to that. And then tonight you've got the juiciest one of them all. Ravens-Bills. Rematch of the divisional round. Exciting stuff. And we talked about that earlier. I think the Bills as home dogs is disrespectful. And I love Lamar. I love the Ravens. I'm going to pick them again to win the Super Bowl this year. But on the road in Buffalo, as favorites, oh boy. Feels a touch disrespectful to the the reigning league MVP. And then we got Vikings, Bears tomorrow's. Ben Johnson makes his debut. Caleb Williams going up against that Vikings defense. So I am very much looking forward to that and seeing if he can become the Caleb Williams that we thought he was going to be when he was drafted by Chicago last year. Caleb Williams against Brian Flores should be fun. That does it for this edition of the Ty Butler Show. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Had a great time today. We'll do this thing again. We'll hop on here tomorrow, but every Sunday of the NFL season, you guys can expect to hear from me on this YouTube channel. Hit me up. I'm on X, Ty D Butler. I am on Instagram, Ty D Butler. I'm looking forward to this show continuing to grow. We'll have some graphics. We'll have some bells and whistles. We'll bring on some guests. It's going to be a good time. So I appreciate you guys joining the show.